Welcome to Assembly Calendar. I'm Mike Friesen. With us for our program, Assemblyman Andrew Goodell. Andy Goodell represents the 150th Assembly District in New York State, an Assembly District that includes Chautauqua County. We want to thank you folks across Western New York for joining us. Assemblyman Goodell, always nice to see you.
Always a pleasure to be here with you.
Lots of things happening right now at the state capitol. We'll be talking in this program today about where the budget talks are, and we're knee-deep in budget talks right now at the state capitol. In fact, from the taping of this program, we're expecting a budget to be enacted just within the next few days. So we will be speaking in terms of being ahead of that, but probably by the time you folks see this, a budget will already be in place. And then the other issue going on is continued discussion on the idea of hydrofracking in the southern tier. So we know you folks in Chautauqua County are already experts on that issue. And we'll be talking about what the state vision for that is. A lot of talk of vision in our program today.
We hope.
With Assemblyman Goodell. Let's talk a little bit about where this budget where the budget talks are right now. You've been helping lead the debate here in the State Assembly as different parts of the discussion have leaked onto the floor. For example, the Assembly put forward its own version of a budget. The governor proposes a budget. The Assembly has a budget. The Senate has a budget. When the Assembly budget came up for debate, you stood up and asked a lot of questions of the Ways and Means Chairman, Mr. Farrell. Let's talk about that today.
I did, and really the focus of my questions were whether or not the budget was a realistic budget as a practical matter as it related to the minimum wage. And of course, there's been a lot of discussion about increasing the minimum wage to $9 an hour from $7.25. It's a 24% increase. And of course, not only would that increase the minimum wage for everyone earning less than $9, but it also causes compression. So those who are currently earning $9 an hour will want to have an increase in minimum wage. And so 2 weeks ago, for 3 hours in a row, I heard some of my colleagues from New York City argue that if we only force a huge increase in minimum wage on employers, they'll go out and hire a lot more people. And I will tell you, I've talked to literally dozens and dozens of employers, and not one has told me that if they have to pay more for entry-level workers, they'll hire more of them. I mean, it's the whole concept that you can increase the cost of an entry-level job by 24% and the employers will respond by hiring more people just flies right in the face of common sense and honest to goodness for 3 hours in a row. I heard that argument being made. And of course, the empirical research is exactly the opposite. A comprehensive study on the subject done by Cornell University and by one of the top economists with the Federal Reserve concluded that an increase in minimum wage in New York State would result in over 28,000 people losing their job. And of course, the people who lose their jobs are the ones we want to help the most. They're the working poor. They're the ones that are trying to get out of poverty, and they're in the entry-level jobs, and they want to move forward. And it hurts the students, of course, during the summer because they're often the ones that have the entry-level jobs or the minimum wage jobs. So in the face of all of the empirical data, innumerable studies, and basic fundamental common sense, the Assembly majority argued that an increase in minimum wage would result in more people being hired. So then I took it the next step further and I said, all right, here's the budget proposal from my colleagues in New York City. You want to raise the minimum wage by 24%. Have we increased funding for the summer youth program by 24%? Because the summer youth program hires students during the summer at minimum wage. And if you don't raise the funding by 24%, you end up laying off 24% of the kids that would otherwise be hired. By the way, that's over 4,500 students that would not be employed if you raise the minimum wage by 24% but don't change the funding. Answer, no, we haven't changed the funding. So then I said, well, hospitals employ a lot of people below $9 an hour. And of course, they provide absolutely critical care. The largest single component of hospital funding comes from the state through the Medicaid program. Are we increasing Medicaid reimbursement for hospitals to take care of the sick people in our communities? Answer, no. Well, then I said, you know, one of the most critical services government provides is for our vulnerable senior citizens who at the end of their lives find themselves needing skilled nursing care. And our nursing homes throughout New York State have a number of people that are earning less than $9 an hour. So are we increasing the Medicaid reimbursement rate for nursing homes so that they can pay more? Because if we don't increase the reimbursement rate for our nursing homes, they'll lay off staff. They have no choice. They lay off staff, and then the quality of care goes down. And the answer was no. This budget includes nothing. So you go right down the list. Are we increasing funding for our state parks? And Chautauqua County, of course, as you know, we have Long Point State Park, and we have Midway State Park. They employ a lot of kids, a lot of students. They pay below $9 an hour. No increase in funding. Then you say, well, New York State is one of the largest purchasers of goods and services, and we do it with a competitive bid. Are we giving some sort of tax break to our employers so that when they submit a competitive bid to the state of New York, they're competitive with a company in Pennsylvania that's paying 24% lower for their minimum wage? Answer, no tax breaks.
So there's two things at work here. One is they're just ignoring what the outcome would be of the action, but then they also don't seem to understand that if that's the case, that would also apply to the private sector, who is saying all along that we won't be hiring more people. In fact, we'll have less, of that part of our budget to spend on those people that are doing that work for us.
And so then it comes right into the fundamental aspect of the budget. Of course, what you're witnessing with a minimum wage debate is politics at its worst. You have politicians saying to the working poor, oh, look, we're your friend. We're raising your minimum wage. When in reality, they're causing massive layoffs amongst the very people they purport to help. And it's the political hypocrisy when they claim they're helping you and they're not providing any funding to make it a reality. That is political hypocrisy. And the problem with that approach is it just nails New York State businesses and our employment. And as you know, the new employment numbers came out. There are several counties in our state that are facing double-digit unemployment right now. We need more jobs. So here's an alternative vision. Rather than just raising taxes on everybody, raising the cost of doing business on everybody, banning any new business development like in natural gas fields, for example, maybe we should take a different approach and say, what can we as a state do to build the economy? What can we do to help private sector hire more people? Not fewer, but more people. Because if we have more employment, then we have more people that get off from welfare. We have more people who are developing self-sufficiency. We have more people making more money. And of course, the corollary of that is costs of government services for welfare and social services go down. Revenue from taxes that are being paid by people who are happy to pay them because they're making good money goes up. And one area is maybe we should keep our minimum wage consistent with our neighboring states so that we don't force employers to move entry-level jobs into Pennsylvania or into New Jersey or the other states that are lower. Maybe rather than banning the development of natural resources, particularly natural gas, we should move forward. And as you know, there's been a lot of debate on the hydrofracking issue. We've been hydrofracking wells in Chautauqua County for over 60 years. We've fracked over 5,000 wells in Chautauqua County. If you're paying attention, and you have to pay attention because the wells are fairly small, the wellheads are small, but if you're paying attention, you'll see wells anywhere you go when you drive in Chautauqua County. There's 3 natural gas wells on the Chautauqua Institution Golf Course. There's one downtown Bemis right on the edge of the golf course. They're right next to our schools. There's one right next to Southwestern and Maple Grove schools. They're all over the county. And of course, the landowners love them. They get royalties and they get free natural gas. So, Plan A. You pay every month to heat your house. Plan B, you get free natural gas and the utility company sends you money. Most people prefer to have the utility company sending them money and they get free natural gas in the meantime.
I think I'd sign up for that one, yeah.
You would think
I think
so,
I
yeah.
would, yeah.
So here we have tremendous natural gas reserves across the southern tier. The DEC has been carefully studying the issue for 4 years now. They've developed draft regulations that are the toughest in the nation. It's time we move forward. It's time we develop our natural gas resources. It's time we start allowing landowners to get royalty payments. It's time we start hiring people into this field. Estimates are that if you open up natural gas exploration with the Marcellus Shale in the southern tier, you'd add up to 48,000 new jobs. So maybe instead of losing 28,000 by raising your minimum wage higher than any of our neighboring states, instead of doing that, maybe we should take a different approach. Keep the cost of doing business lower, move forward in an environmentally responsible manner and develop our natural resources, increase the number of people that are working, reduce our welfare burdens and our unemployment costs, put money back into the economy, allow landowners to get royalties, which they'll then use to hire contractors and build new homes and improve their property. I mean, a whole different vision. Instead of beating down business, building up business. And if we did that, our revenues in the state would go up based on the royalties, based on the employment. Our costs would go down, and we'd be able to invest the kind of money that we need to invest in education, in our highways and CHIPS funding, in taking care of our developmentally disabled, and in meeting our other obligations. So this week, as we wrestle with the budget, I'll be working with my colleagues, both in the Assembly and the state, to say there's a different vision. Instead of taxing business out of existence, why don't we encourage business to grow and develop in New York State? Let's really be open for business, not just a marketing slogan, but really do it by putting our money where our mouth is.
The state would definitely need to be a little more proactive. You made the point that it's been more than 4 years that the state's been studying this hydrofracking issue before any decision's been made. We're still waiting for a decision from the governor's office. One of your colleagues points out that that's enough time for a student to go and get an entire degree, yet the state in 4 years can't seem to make a simple study as to whether something's safe or not.
It's a great analogy. Imagine a freshman student coming in and saying, I'm going to write a term paper on responsible natural gas development, and says to his professor, I need a slight extension of time, like 4 years. I mean, we have a lot of smart students in our universities across New York State. We have got some great, great universities, Fredonia and JCC and JBC in our county. I got news for you, Any one of those students can do it faster than we're doing it. Yeah. And
it's said that there is so much of the natural gas in that Marcellus Shale that it would really change the entire landscape of not only New York State's, but possibly the United States' energy dependence situation right now. I mean, this is a big deal we got going on here.
And the positive environmental ramifications of low-cost, clean-burning natural gas are astounding. As you know, the federal government recently reported that our greenhouse gas emissions as a nation are now where they were 20 years ago. We've brought them back to where they were in 1992. And the number one reason was that the coal plants that produce electricity have switched to clean-burning natural gas. We have gotten a greater reduction in greenhouse gas production from switching to natural gas than all the regulations combined.
Well, we're going to be watching this debate. Well, that's not really much of a debate. We're waiting for the decision on hydrofracking from the governor's office. We will be watching the debate this week on the budget bills as they make their way through both houses. Next program, we should probably have some answers on all this.
I hope so.
We will find out. Andy Goodell, thank you for joining us today. As always, we want to thank you folks for spending your time with us, and we'll hope to see you for that next edition of Assembly Calendar.